Good evening, everybody. Welcome. I've heard I have a voice that amplifies. Can everybody hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Good. Okay. My name is Heidi Franz Tremblay, and I'm one of the AAUW co-presidents. It's my pleasure to welcome you all here, our members, and the community. Our speaker series is also sponsored in part with Isley Library, so we thank them for their support. And we also want to thank MCTV for recording tonight's presentation and making it possible for people to view it from home. So if you don't know, the American Association of University Women was founded in Boston, Massachusetts in 1881, and our local chapter started in 1921. So since its inception, the chief goal of AAUW has been to advance education and equity for women and girls. And our funding comes from membership dues, donations, grants, and bequests. We engage in lobbying and advocacy for women's rights and education. And we've got two funds that basically support grants for women globally and women facing gender discrimination in higher education. In 2025, AAUW awarded $5.3 million to 228 women's scholars and community projects.
Could you say that again, please?
So, yes, I can. In 2025, AAUW awarded over $5.3 million to 228 women's scholars and community projects. Over 55% of the fellows and grantees were women of color. 65% of the awardees across the programs are first-generation college students, and up to 70% of the fellows in these fields were awarded for their focus on science, technology, engineering, and math.
Awesome.
So membership is now open to men and women. So if you're interested in joining AAUW, please speak to one of our members. And just a quick reminder, our next meeting is going to be March 17th at the Rec Center, and we will be discussing the state of healthcare in Vermont with Owen Foster from the Green Mountain Care Board and Mike Fisher, the Chief Care Advocate for Vermont Legal Aid. So now it is my pleasure to introduce AAUW member Sandy Bemis, who's going to introduce our guest.
It is my pleasure to be the one to introduce our guest tonight. Not many people get to introduce a professional speaker at a meeting when they've known them since they were 3 years old. Right?
Yes, that's right.
So, when I was young, and I was young 50 years ago, I brought a few props to show you. This might be what I wore when I was the membership chairman of AAUW in 1970.
Yes, there.
Wow. This might have been the little handbag. So, I was a young wife and mother, little kids. Somebody in the Walnut Creek chapter of AAUW talked me into being the membership chairman. So my job was to find new people and convince them to join. So I got lists of people that moved into the town, and I would call on them. So one day, I got Jennifer's mother's name, Mary Weaver. And I did not email her. I did not text her. I went to see her. So this is maybe what I would. Probably had a plate of cookies.
Bet you did.
So Mary was new to town. She didn't know anybody. She had two little girls, Jennifer and her sister. She had no friends. She didn't have a life. So I knocked at her door and I said, I'd like to talk to you about a group of women that you could join, and they would give you a life. She said years later, on that day, she would have followed me anywhere. She had 2 little kids, she had a new house, she had no friends, she had a busy husband. You know, she needed women. She needed adult women to get on with. So this chapter, we didn't do a speaker series, but we had lots of social things.
You sure did. California in the 70s?
It became our whole social network. And of course, all the little kids too. So Jennifer and her sister became one of our kids, kind of, because we followed each other through the years to the East Coast finally. They didn't follow us up to Vermont, but
Yeah.
because
Not
my-
yet.
Not yet, yeah. Because my daughter joined AAUW and started working on the speakers series, she knew that Jennifer might like to come and visit. And oh, by the way, when you come and visit, would you like to give a talk? So that's kind of like Paul Harvey, the rest of the story. I won't tell you her accomplishments, but they are many, and she's going to tell us all about raising healthy children or healthy grandchildren. So I'm happy to turn it over to her.
Oh, thank you, Sam. Sorry. Oh, thank you so much. That is the best introduction I've ever had. Oh my gosh. Thank you all for having me. Let me do my duty here first. So nice to see you all. My name is Jennifer Weaver. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and my work is in clinical work with children, and I've been doing it for 35 years. And I have been a professor for many years at Catholic University in their graduate program, teaching young therapists how to be a therapist. I have a practice in McLean, Virginia, which is right outside DC, that has 16 psychotherapists that work with me, and we're a big practice that works almost exclusively, we say 2 to 22. And we do a lot of parent work too. And so I've been doing this a very long time. I'm a real believer in the work. I really love what I do. I love the people that I work with. And I'm also a mother. I have 3 children, 26, 24, and 22 now. So I've also been in the trenches. And in fact, there's a little section in our book called In the Trenches where we confess all our stuff too, because, you know, you can know a lot of stuff and then your own children show up and you're like, whoa. So we were strolling along, working with kids, training people to work with kids, doing therapy, doing parent work. And over the years, I have noticed, and the statistics bear this out, that mental health problems for young people have gotten worse. Anxiety, depression, and dysregulation, and an ability to kind of manage feelings and still be able to function well. And we really, honestly don't understand some of what's going on. We could all make some good guesses. I know the first thing a lot of us are thinking is devices, and that may well be true, but it was really happening a little bit before then too. And then the pandemic hit. And that really threw our children. And it threw their parents and their grandparents. And so I got together. So it was rough. I just can't even tell you. Like, we're trying to do therapy on Zoom with like a 6-year-old or with their parent. No one's in school. We all had this. And I had 2 colleagues that I love very much that were sort of in the trenches with me. One of them is, and these are my 2 co-authors. So, oh no, we don't want to see my trees. We want to see my slides. I may have to, yeah. But that was soothing when I was talking about how stressful it was. But it's okay, we'll look at some trees. It'll be fine. So here are my two co-authors. Kathy McCarthy is a child psychiatrist. She's rated one of the top child psychiatrists in the Washington, D.C. area for like 20 years. That Heather Tedesco is a parent researcher and works with parents, but also gathers a lot of information. So she's kind of so we got a doctor, we got a scientist, and then we got a child therapist. And we got together on Kathy's porch and said, we need to try to put together something for parents that's all our collective wisdom in a really digestible way so that parents who are struggling, and especially during this pandemic times, it was originally called the Parenting Pandemic Playbook. We got, our publisher voted that out, but we also wanted to make a book that was not a book, because who wants to read a parenting book? I don't even want to read a parenting book. So it's more like a Rick Steves travel guide. So you can bop around. You don't have to read it at all. You can just find a section that interests you. You can go to Istanbul for the day, or you can go all week and read all about it, you know. So there's different sections that you come into. And it's very scientifically researched. The language is soft and hopefully helpful and friendly. We have tons of illustrations in the book, very intentionally to soothe parent brains and to provide little mnemonic devices for a lot of the tips and tricks. Oh, right, that picture of the girl in the boat or whatever. I'm going to try that. So we tried to make a book that was a little bit easy, friendly, something you could keep on your nightstand. And what we want to say is that we feel like there's been a tremendous focus on sort of skills. Well, here, let me say something else first. Well, first of all, how many of you, let me just find out who I'm talking to. How many of you are grandparents? We're going to start there. That's awesome. And then how many of you are parents? Okay, yeah, sure. I know, the grandparents get to do it twice. What kind of ages? So interested in ages of, are we talking, so from like 0 to 10, how many people have some real interest in that age group? Okay. And like 10 to 20, whatever. Yeah, all right, well, so there's a good mix. So I'll try to have some different examples. The book is meant to sort of be an overview of just healthy development, but I want to tell you something that's really important first, which is that we want to focus on psychological adaptability. And that's actually chapter 5 of the book, and I'm not talking about chapter 5. I'm going to talk about chapter 3, but it's really infused with the whole thing, and I'm going to explain why. We are living in the age of the Anthropocene. It is the age of acceleration. And the way that technology, so this, I know everybody can't see this, printing press, telescope, steam engine, light bulb, telephone, car, man on the moon. What? Microprocessors, cell phones, hybrid cars, you know, and now AI, right? Yeah. And it is going at such a crazy pace. And it is a challenge to raise a child in an environment that is changing. The sand is changing underneath you all every minute. When I was growing up, and Sandy can attest to this, and I like to talk on the telephone as like a 12-year-old or whatever, and I had a long cord, and I would go around the corner, and I would talk on the telephone, and then I'd hang up, then it'd ring maybe, and then the change from when I was young to, you know, from 2 to 22, there was basically starting to be a beginnings of cell phones. My parents raised me in an environment that was pretty stable in those ways, right? That is not what's happening today. And I see parents all the time struggling to try to parent in a way that's always responding and reacting to these constant changes. And kids, too. The kids also have to respond and react, right? So what we need for new modern kids is probably less about IQ or skills. It's about adaptability. It's about flexibility, being able to change on a dime. right? We don't know what's coming next, and we need kids that can roll with the punches. If they study to become a lawyer and all of a sudden only AI is lawyers, they need to be able to be like, that's all right, I'm going to be able to do something else. And we need kids that can have good relationship and community and be able to connect with one another in a way where they are able to be uncomfortable and still function really well. And I want to say that over the years, one of the trends I've noticed, certainly in parenting, and there's always parenting trends, is a movement toward lots of talk about feelings, lots of validation, lots of acknowledgement about feelings, and I think there are some very good things about that. But we have kind of maybe tipped a little bit too far into, sure, feelings, but we need to be able to function too. And so what I want to talk to you about tonight is the idea of being able to feel maybe really difficult feelings, intense feelings, and function at the same time. Because a lot of what we're seeing, at least in the schools, and when I talk to parents in schools and little kids and older kids in my therapy practice, there are a lot of kids who feel a lot of feelings, and then they are able to actually maybe tell you about them, but they want them fixed before they go and do the thing. So this is partly our fault. This is partly the fault of the psychologists and the therapists. Years ago, I was working with a little boy who was like 7 years old, 6, 7, and he was very dysregulated in school. He was in first grade, and I was working with his school counselor and with him and with his parents. And this was many years ago, and I was helping him put some tools together for his toolbox. So like when he would get upset, he would be able to breathe, take 10 breaths or 4 square breathing, or, all these little strategies, right? These tools to manage his very strong feelings. And I thought I had a lot of good tools, and I thought it was going really well. And then the school counselor called me one day, and she said, we'll call him Johnny. She said, Johnny would like me to call you. He needs more tools. And I could hear him screaming in the background, I need my tools! I need my tools! And I was like, oh no, I have done something really unhelpful here. I have given him the impression that he has a feeling that needs a tool to be fixed. I meant the tool would help him manage the feeling while he did well and went to recess and did the transition of the thing he was struggling with. It was misunderstood, and that's on me, right? And that's on our profession. We have there's a lot of energy around fixing things and problem solving. Let's problem solve these feelings. Feelings are not to be fixed. Feelings are fleeting physiological sensations in the body that come and go. And what are you going to do, man? And I think we want to try to course correct that message. And so that's really what this book is about. And course correct it so that kids can be flexible and adaptable. We need a kid to be able to feel really scared and take the quiz anyway at the same time. Not wait for the feeling to subside, because that's actually not how feelings work. So one of the things we noticed in the pandemic, so these are all illustrations from the book, so they're a little cartoony, but everybody talks about the age of anxiety. We're in the age of anxiety. One of the things that I think is really good that happened during the pandemic is during the pandemic, there was tons of uncertainty. And uncertainty is one of the 2 key components of anxiety, uncertainty. We all want to be certain. And if we don't know what's going to happen, we're very anxious. It's just natural. We couldn't do anything about that during the pandemic. So a kid would come to a parent and be like, do I have school tomorrow? And a parent who likes to be able to provide certainty and comfort and would have to say, I don't I don't know, man. Maybe. Like, do we wear masks? Yeah, we are this week. Do we wipe our groceries? Well, we were last week, but now we don't know. We don't know. Remember all the changes and flow? And will we be able to go to school every other day, every day? And parents had to say over and over, I don't know, I don't know. They were forced to do it. And I think that was a good thing. Because I think it allowed kids to marinate in uncertainty in a way that helped them practice. And what we found was a lot of the kids actually managed the uncertainty better than their parents did, Their little plastic brains just were like, okay, I guess we're just not gonna know things. And that's great. That's a really good practice. And so what my colleagues and I are hoping is that we can move away from the age of anxiety, that the pandemic can almost be like the next greatest generation, sort of an evolution, so that these young people can naturally be more adaptable and be able to really use the pandemic and other uncertainties, because AI and all those things, are uncertain too, to their benefit, to be able to manage well in the face of fear, which is really what uncertainty is. This is just an article that, an op-ed we wrote in Time Magazine that was quite popular. That's a lot about this idea. We called it, instead of IQ, we called it AQ, which is adaptability quotient. That's like a business buzzword, but we tried to sort of change it over. Obviously, EQ is also incredibly important in this. So anyway, there's a link here for anybody who has the slides. That's why I put that in. We also really want to get away from the idea that anxiety in particular, or stress, is a bad thing. Anxiety is, let's not call it, I don't know what anxiety is. Anxiety is just, like lots of chemicals, Stress, we know a ton about. And one of the things we know is if you're not, to perform optimally, you actually need to be a little stressed. If you're not stressed at all, what are you doing, napping? Or if you're not stressed about being smelly and your friends making fun of you, then you don't take a shower and you don't do your laundry. If you're not stressed about your teacher being upset, you're not going to do your homework, or that you might be embarrassed. There's lots of things that we need. We need to be some stress. Now, we know that there is, this is called the Yerkes-Dodson curve. We know that then there's a point where now you're too stressed and you really can't function. That fight or flight system is just... But we want to see anxiety not as something to be fixed, but actually we talk to kids a lot about it as your frenemy. It's not your friend, but it's not your enemy. You want to get along with it and be able to use it in ways that are helpful to you, but also know that it's maybe not always your friend. Another thing we know a lot about with the research is that people tend to, when they're under stress, do one of two things. They tend to either be very chaotic, get more and more chaotic under stress, or become more and more rigid. And kids do this too. Now, sometimes kids do both. Woo! Oh, and sometimes adults do too. I'm total chaos. The more stressed I get, I can't find my keys, I lose my phone. The beauty is I know this about myself. I accept this actually about myself now more. And I can start to now feel when I start to become more chaotic and remind myself, oh, right, I get really chaotic under stress. I got to get back in the middle of that river. I got to have some rigidity. I got to have some organization. I got to lay out my keys the night before. I got to make sure I have, I'm more prepared. I give this talk a lot with a coworker of mine who is absolutely the opposite. And it's just hilarious because as we've done talks together where like all the technology went down and the lights go off and all the things. And she becomes more and more rigid. And I'm like doing a tap dance in the corner. And, and it's funny. But really, that is adaptability, right? It's the ability to know yourself, notice what's happening to your body and your mind, and say, you know what? I'm going to take a deep breath. You know what? I'm finding myself getting very, all the little perfectionistic, the girls with the gel pens, and they're like, oh, if I just put it in color coding, I'll get a good grade. You got to know yourself and hack yourself, right? It's okay. It's okay however you roll, but you want to be able to accept that and then be able to have some adaptability, some flexibility in how you're going to engage in it. So here's a little question I like to ask. A bird is on a branch, a baby bird is on a branch, and a storm is coming. Why is the bird not afraid of the branch breaking? Because he can fly. Yes. A lot of parenting these days has been about shoring up the branch. Let's see if we can get some accommodations going. Now, I am a fan of accommodations around disabilities. If you have a math disorder or reading, I'm a fan of that. But there's been a lot of accommodating of just, Johnny's really sad today or whatever. And we want to be really careful about that because we're spending a lot of time shoring up the branch. It'll be okay. You know what? I think if you talk to Mrs. So-and-so before you take your quiz, maybe she'll give you a little, there's this idea that we can make the feelings better by changing the environment. But what we want to do is say, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if there's going to be a pop quiz today, but whatever happens, you're going to be able to handle it. Now, you're not saying, whatever happens, I know you'll get a good grade. No, you don't. And that's not a good message for a kid, that that's the outcome. The outcome needs to be, I took that quiz and I survived. I took that quiz and got a D and survived. I'm still standing after that quiz. Because kids sort of don't know that. They get very afraid and they want a lot of support with the environment for the environment to change so that they'll be okay. And we really, I think, want to get away from that because we don't have a choice because the environment's changing all the time. One of our catchphrases is, don't prepare the road for your child. Prepare your child for the road. And I really think that is sort of, so that's what I'm going to talk, that's sort of our general idea. This is mostly a talk now about chapter 3. We have 10 chapters around healthy children. They did a really interesting study with adults where they put a whole bunch of adults in and gave them a whole bunch of tests around like mental health and good functioning, how's their employment, how are their relationships. And then they did a bunch of things with them. But one of the things they did was they asked them to get in the pool and hold their breath underwater and see how long they could hold their breath. And you want to know what happened? The adults that could hold their breath longer was highly correlated with adults who were functioning well in their lives. Now, what is that, right? We don't know. It's correlation. We can't say for sure. These two things are related, but my guess is that people who can tolerate discomfort a little bit longer can function much better in this world. Physiological discomfort is the exact same thing as emotional discomfort to the brain. It does not know the difference. And so being able, because holding your breath, it's a voluntary activity. We're just asking people to be uncomfortable, right? We do a lot of teenage groups around emotional regulation at my practice. We do a therapy called DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy. And there's a whole section on challenging kids to be uncomfortable. So we have them do like just wall squats or, for lengths of time and talk about the discomfort and can you hold on a little longer? What would that be like? We have them do embarrassing things like everybody close their eyes and dance to this music, but some people, are peeking and, can you be embarrassed and be able to do the thing? Are you willing? Can you be willing to do the thing even if you're uncomfortable? And I don't know, I just really love that study about the holding your breath thing. I think it's super interesting. I want to talk about another study. There was a study, a huge study done in California. I don't know, this probably been 15 years ago now, but it was a longitudinal study with, like 45,000 people. And they did a ton of stuff with these people. They gave them questionnaires about their functioning, trying to evaluate, their relationships, how they were feeling. They took a lot of information about early trauma that these people had had. They put them in functional MRI machines and talked to them about their trauma. There's super interesting stuff about that. But one of the things I want to tell you today is that they were kind of able to cull from that their big question was, what are the pillars of a healthy functioning adult? What do these people seem to have in common? These people who seem to function well, who seem to be able to keep relationship or keep employment or don't have a lot of drug use, who say they have life satisfaction and they rate themselves in that way. And there are there's kind of five, but there's mostly three things that these people tended to all have in common. And so I think we should have our kids have these things because it appears to be highly correlated. And the first is these adults knew how they felt and could put a word to it. Now, that doesn't mean that they were walking around all day going, now I'm mad, now I'm happy. They're not saying it out loud. But if you asked them, they could tell you how they felt. And in fact, they compared people, I could really get in the weeds about this, so I don't want to do that too much, but they compared people who had who all had a lot of childhood trauma that was well documented, and they put them in functional MRI machines, and they asked them to talk about what happened when they were young. So these were people who had files like CPS files, and they would say, John, it looks like when you were 8, CPS had you move in with your aunt. What happened there? And one guy might say, oh, yeah, that was a really rough time. Oh, yeah, and my mom, and I was so, maybe not saying, just a lot of, And then there'd be another guy who'd say, oh, yeah, I remember that so well. It was so rough. My aunt had this thing under the stairs that used to really scare me, and she was so mean when it came to a certain food. And the second person would have a lot of detail. There was some narrative. There was some story attached. So this is very sort of, that was bad, and this is bad for these reasons. And you could see what was happening in their brains. You could see that their amygdala, which I'm going to talk about in a second, the deep feeling, and hippocampus, the memory and feeling parts of the brain, were, for both of them, this is a hard thing to talk about, right? But for the really well-functioning person, there was also a lot of prefrontal cortex activity. There was a lot of connection happening. With the person who functioned less well in their life, this was just offline. It was dark. So these people who are functioning less well are working out of portions of their brain in a kind of compartmentalized way. This is feeling, this is functioning, The healthier appearing to be people had both things going on at the same time. There was good wiring, and there was a lot more neurological connections, a lot more complexity. These are people who could feel and think at the same time, and part of that is words. The only way we know how to actually turn this thing on is language. The deep parts of the brain that are more our mammalian brain, the dog brain, the horse brain, the emotional brain. A dog has feelings. A dog is scared because the smoke alarm goes off. A dog remembers food. A dog is joyful when you come home. It has a lot of feeling and a lot of memory, but not language, and not a lot of prefrontal cortex at all. Humans have a lot of prefrontal cortex, and the only place language lives is here. So being able to say, I feel frustrated with my mother, turns on a little synaptic connection between that deep part. It goes, ding! That's what that is. That's frustration. That is the first step to managing the feeling, actually. What's the next step? You're not going to understand this for a second, being non-judgmental about that feeling. So I might have a strong feeling. I might really like your slippers. They're beautiful, by the way. And I might think, oh gosh, I really wish I had slippers like that. Oh, I feel a little jealous. I really wish I had some slippers, right? Whatever. But then I might be like, I am a 58-year-old woman. Why am I being weird? Why do I have to be what's wrong with me? Why am I so jealous? And you get all judgmental, and you think about your feelings, and I'm the worst. No, maybe she's the worst. I don't know. And you do a lot of work in there. And that gets you in trouble, and that gets kids in trouble. because we want them to say, I feel frustrated. But then we want them to be like, yep, that's what that chemical is, like a hiccup. When you get hiccups, you don't sit around going, what's wrong with me? Why do I have, you're just like, ugh, this is annoying. And you wait it out. And maybe you try something or whatever. But like basically, just like hiccups, feelings are fleeting. They come, they go. There's nothing to judge there. What am I going to do? It's a chemical response that I felt jealous about her shoes. I can be weird about it, but like what? Who cares? I felt jealous and now I've moved on, So we really want kids to know how they feel with words and use a lot of feeling language because that appears to be very organizing to the prefrontal cortex. And we want kids to be really able to see the feeling in this kind of way where you're just like, yep, I'm pretty livid at my little sister, chemical. And then what do you think the third thing is? It is, well, do nothing. Be non-reactive. I feel something. I see it as a chemical experience. I'm not going to be all judgy with myself. I'm not going to try to change it. I'm not going to try to fix it. Fixing it makes it worse because now you're fighting your feelings. There's a whole thing about that. And I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to be weird with this nice person who came in. I'm just going to be like, yeah, there's nothing to do here. The feeling comes, the feeling goes. And we really need to have all three parts. This is usually the first part, but we can model all this for kids as they're having strong feelings, and that is organizing to them so that they know, I can have a strong feeling and just roll. I can just go. I can feel terrified because I have to walk next to Billy in the lunchroom, and I can go to math class right after. I'm going to be okay. I'm scared. Now, maybe I need to get some help. It doesn't mean that you can't fix a situation, but not the feeling, right? So everybody go like this. Now everybody go like this. Put your thumb in here, and now everybody put your fingers around. This is a hand model of the brain, and there's a link here for, you can see this on a YouTube. So if you look at this, these knuckles here are the prefrontal cortex. And then that thumb in there is the limbic system, which is the amygdala and the hippocampus, which is the feeling centers and the memory centers. And when you have that prefrontal cortex with good connection to the limbic system, children can function much better because they have both parts of their brain turned on. They're feeling and they're thinking, they're organizing. And when they lose it, they flip their lid. And we talk to kids about that all the time. And kids flip their lid all the time. And you know what it's like. You see a little kid, and he's just losing it. And no one is home. It's like an animal, right? They have no prefrontal cortex activity. There's no need to talk to them. They don't understand language right now. That part of the brain isn't even turned on, right? Maybe all you do is like horse noises, right? But we want, as people develop, to keep more and more of that connection even when you're under stress, even when you feel strongly. And you all know what it feels like, too, to lose your prefrontal cortex, right? When you get real, that behind the wheel or whatever your thing is, or when you get really scared and you just can't think straight. We all know that feeling. It happens to all of us. But for well-functioning people, we're usually able to keep our head on straight. So we talk to kids a lot about this. We want them to know when they've flipped their lid and give them a chance to just take it down. There's beautiful YouTubes you can show kids, little kids, about this, and lots of little activities you can do about that. So anyway, I just being thoughtful about the time. So being able to try feelings on for size sometimes is really important. Having a lot of growing sophistication and feeling language. There is research to show that's useful. For some kids, I just want to have a cautionary thing here. For some kids, this is actually quite activating. Some kids, when they're in the middle of being upset, if you were to say, oh, you're so mad that you can't go to, can't have extra candy. Or to a teenager, you're so mad at me because I'm not going to let you go out tonight. They're like, no, I'm not, and they sort of almost refuse. Very sensitive kids will sometimes almost argue. don't add feeling then. The prefrontal cortex isn't turned on. You need to talk to this brain, which is probably not a lot of talking. Nonverbals. Ouch. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what we want them to get to is being able to use more actual language around feeling. That's a kind of a growth that we're looking for, but you got to start with where people are, right? And then I said the thing about the hiccups. Oh, so I want to show this video. It's about 4 minutes. This is an activity. We show this video to kids all the time, and then we have a little activity that we do with it. So it's kind of a goofy cartoon, but it's actually based on a lot of good science around a very evidence-based treatment called ACT. And it's really about talking about being able to function well, even when you have being able to function and feel at the same time. So I'm just going to show it to you. So one of the activities we'll do with kids after watching this video is we will have them draw like a outline, like a gingerbread man of themselves. And we'll ask them, what are your Brians? What are the Brians that you want to keep out? And this is often more for older kids and teenagers, but you know, what are those feelings? What are those worries? What are those sensations you don't want to have? And then on the outside, we have them list things they care about, things that matter to them. Maybe it's that they really love their basketball team. Maybe it's that they really care about being a good friend. You know, and what we're trying to get at is when you care about something, don't let your Brians, you might have to take your Brian with you. And it's just, I mean, it's annoying for sure, but just bring your Brian along. You know, social anxiety would be a good example of that, right? You may really, people who are socially anxious, you hurt where you care. People who are socially anxious care a lot about relationships. That's why they're anxious. They don't want to mess it up, right? But if they can take their anxiety with them to something they care about, it doesn't actually mean we're not trying to fix this feeling, right? We may have to bring this anxiety along for the rest of your life, maybe some. But you still get to go and be with people and be at the party, you know? So this is something that we really want to try to grow in kids as we can. Does anybody have a Brian in here that they might be thinking about, that they might need to take along to things? Sometimes I have parents do it too, but I'm not going to do it to you. We play all sorts of games around tolerating difficult feelings in groups and in therapy. And sometimes I do this in parent and teacher talks and stuff too. I'm not doing this to you, but I'm going to describe it for you. I come, and I've done this in like with 500 like high school kids in a room where everybody gets a dum-dum and they can pick out, you know, those little lollipops that all have lots of different flavors, and you can pick, and I say, this is a mindfulness, I'm tricking them. This is a mindfulness activity, and I want you to pick the flavor that really calls to you, that you love the most. I want you to do that, but don't unwrap it, don't do anything, just hold on until our activity. So then everybody, you know, gets there, and they all hold it, and then I say, okay, everybody get out your lollipop, and think about how it's gonna taste, and imagine it. And now pass your lollipop to the right. And you would not believe how mad they are. And you know who's madder? I've done this in schools with teachers. They get really mad. And sometimes I'll even challenge it, like in the high schools, where if it's a row, the first row gets nothing, and the last row gets 2. And then some people are like, I'm fine, I don't care, or whatever, you know. But I swear to you, they come up to me later. Well, I told my oldest son this when he was like 8. I'm like, I'm going to do this activity in this group. And he was like, oh, that's so good. You know, they're tolerating their feelings. And he goes, but you're going to let them switch back, right? That is such a modern child thing. Let's practice feeling uncomfortable, but let's fix it real quick after. I've had kids come up to me saying, and I'm a sucker too. They'll be like, well, I have a special illness that makes me not allowed to have pineapple, but I can have mystery flavor. And I'm like, okay. You know, we want to practice kids being uncomfortable, and we want to have a little sense of humor about it too. And it's funny how just the littlest thing, being uncomfortable, can get under people's skin. So science tells us the kids function best and recover more quickly when they can recognize name and accept their feelings. Accept them. Yep. And tolerating feelings allows them to move through the body and mind faster than fighting them. When we try to fix them, we're actually taking our fight or flight system to fight feelings, which of course makes it worse. And for many kids, actually, they don't even need to talk about the feel. It doesn't actually always have to be a feeling like an emotional feeling. It can just be a feeling in the body. My throat is tight. My hands are clenched. My stomach is rumbling. Yeah, you are uncomfortable. And what a lot of kids have told me over the years, and I've done this, kids will tell me this all the time. I'll say, can we sit with that feeling? Can we just experience it? What is it? And they say, I don't want to. What are you afraid is going to happen? And they're afraid that feeling is going to just be like stuck forever. That if they really sit with the feeling, they'll feel even more of the feeling. They'll feel even worse. It could go on. And it's almost like a cave, right? That if you go into the feeling cave and the fear and the lonely, you know, you didn't get invited to the birthday party. And you're like, I'm fine. It's fine. Don't worry. I know I'm good. And you're like, well, no, you're really disappointed and a little embarrassed and really hurt. And they're like, no, I don't want to feel that. Because they're afraid they'll feel it forever. But that's not how feelings work. It's not how happiness works, how any feeling works. Feelings come and feelings go, man. They're fleeting. But if you keep fighting it, I'm fine, it comes back at you. Or you start then mad at your brother later that day or whatever, right? It doesn't really do its little feeling thing. What we want it to do is feel your feeling, not be so scared of the sensations, both mentally and physically, and notice you have survived. Wow, I felt so humiliated. And then I told you, and then we sat in it, and here I am. And now I think I'll watch TV. You know? We don't want kids to feel better. We want kids to feel better, you know? Feel better. And they're afraid. And so are we. We all are. It's very natural, but there's lots of research to show that people who can sit with the feeling, just like sitting underwater, you know, if you can be uncomfortable, you come out the other side. And kids will tell us that all the time later. They're like, that really helps. But we're not trying to promise them to feel better. We're like, I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't know. You're going to be okay. Here you are. And you have to have that confidence. One of the things we see also all the time is kids tend to have a default feeling, and so do we. My default feeling is sad, for sure. Lots of, here's an example of a girl. She's sitting on an iceberg, by the way. This isn't our best illustration, but she's sitting on an iceberg, and there's water here, and what's showing above is her feeling anger. So she, got left out of the text group, and she comes home, and she's like, I'm not hanging out with Stacy and Victoria anymore. They are, blah, 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 anger, slam the door, right? This may be her default feeling. That's just the quick one. It's the one that lights up. So she has named a feeling. Okay. Often, there are a lot of feelings underneath that are also going on that people are more uncomfortable with. It's more comfortable for this girl to feel angry than it is for her to feel hurt, to feel lonely, this is much more painful. But if she can get in touch with this and see that she can sit with this too, she's going to be able to survive Stacy and Victoria, and maybe still be friends with them, or maybe not. That's a different issue. It's really about in the moment, can she feel all her feelings, and can she get past that one that sort of protects her? I work with a lot of kids actually who can't feel anger too. They'll be like, nope, I'm fine. Nope, it was okay. Nope, nope. And you're like, oh, honey. And then what happens? Then they're very anxious, and then, they have that feeling is just rolling and rolling, and it hasn't been processed. It really is a kind of process. I know that's a very jargony term, but that is a real thing. When the chemical experience comes, we really tend to want to put it quickly in a bucket. And I bet all of you could sit for a second and think, what is my general default feeling? And I bet a lot of you would have a sense of that. So before you put it right in your bucket, think about what might be underneath. And also as a parent or a grandparent, if the child can tolerate it, you might say, oh, Stacy and Victoria left you out of that text group. They have been your closest. You must be mad. Of course you're mad. And I bet you're a little hurt too. And then she might be like, no, and you're like, okay, but you planted a little seed, right? Yeah. You could actually have a variety of feelings about this, and they would all be fine. They would all be understandable, and they'd all be survivable, and you could feel them. And I am not trying to fix your situation with Victoria and Stacy or whoever. I don't have advice for you. I'm not going to say, have you thought about calling Janice? I'm just going to be like, oh, yeah. Because we want to get in there and fix it, don't we? Do we want to get in there? Because who feels bad? Not just them, we do too. When our kids or our grandkids are hurting, and that's how we're built, we hurt too. So sometimes we want to fix their feelings so we feel better. I mean, we want them to feel better, but it makes us feel, oh, well, we'll just we'll get a play date going with Janice, and okay, I feel better, she seems better, her face is better. Try to model that it's okay to just be upset, and that you can sit with that through the tunnel, and that you as the adult can do it too and model that, and that you don't have to come in with a solution. That doesn't mean you're not going to have one at some point, but don't do it right then when the depth of feeling. Wait until later. And then also they have more prefrontal cortex. And then you can be like, let's problem solve what's going on with you socially. It sounds like you're really in a pickle. And that's when you might have the conversation, if they want to. So here's an example. I want to talk about validation because I'm a big fan of validation, like serious fan of validation. And I know what time it is. So is it okay if I go like 10 more minutes?
You're doing great.
Okay. Is that okay with you, Drew? All right, cool. So I really am a fan of validation. I know I said at the beginning, oh, maybe we're over-validating. I don't actually mean that. I think it's really important to validate. I just think you can acknowledge the depth of feeling and do the thing. I want to take the best of old school parenting, which is get up and do the thing, and the best of new school gentle parenting, which is, oh, you really feel, and let's put them together and have both, right? I think there's really a lot to be learned. So here's an example of the cycle of invalidation that we all, as good parents and grandparents, might do. So, well, first, I'm going to give an example. So there's a family that I was working with where the dad wanted to take the daughter to get donuts every Friday before school. It was going to be his little thing, daddy-daughter donut day or whatever. And he has a very anxious daughter, and who's very perfectionistic and she really wants to please and wants everything to go well. And so he says to her, we'll call her Sasha, hey Sasha, guess what? We're gonna do daddy donut daughter now every Friday. It's gonna be really fun. I'm gonna take you to get donuts at the donut place before you go to school. And she says, what? I don't wanna get donuts before school. What do you mean? I wanna get on the bus. I have a system. I do. And he's like, well, you're 9 and I'm an adult. And he's a little hurt too. He wants to do donuts. Why is she saying that? And he's also like, how is this girl going to function when she's too scared to even get a donut? It makes parents feel nervous. How's my kid going to manage with all this sensitivity, right, in the real world? So then what does he do? Naturally, understandably, he minimizes her feeling. He says, well, I mean, he knows to validate a little because we've been working together. So he says, oh, yeah, well, I know you're worried about being to school on time, but it's fine. We got this. Just don't worry about it. I've got this. I know how long it's going to take. We're going to get you to school on time. And she says, what? And she starts to really lose it. No, I don't know. Why can't I? What's music on Friday? And, all this, And she's getting dysregulated. She's starting to flip her lid. And he is like, what the heck has happened? I was going to take her to donuts, and now we're having kind of a tantrum thing happening here. So then he's like, oh, come on, Sasha. Let's, we're going to get donuts. You've got to trust me. What's, blah, 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 blah. And on and ups and on and on and on. And then she's like, she feels so misunderstood. She thinks her dad doesn't understand how important it is to her to be on time, how scared she is to have the routine shook up. A cycle of invalidation, right? So we talked about it a little bit and practiced some different kind of validation. It doesn't always happen this smoothly, but it did this time. So we can do the same cycle with validation. And he did it. So the next week he said, hey, Sasha, I really want to take you to donuts on Friday, but I know you're really scared about being late for school. And she says, yeah, I really don't want to go. I'm so sorry, Daddy. I love you so much, but I just don't. And he was like, yeah, it matters so much to you to be on time. You really care about your teacher. You want to do a good job. And she's like, I do. And you really care about not being disruptive when you come in. You don't want to miss any lesson. I get that about you. I really see why it's so scary. Yes, it is. So I want to let you know that I really get why it's going to be scary, but I also know that you can handle it. I know you can be scared and we can still go get donuts. And so we're going to go get donuts tomorrow, and I'm going to really understand how scared you are. Now notice, he doesn't say, you're going to get donuts and like it. He says, we're going to go get donuts and you're going to be really scared, and I'm going to really understand that. Your feeling is totally valid. You are scared. You care about these things, and you can go get donuts at the same time. And then you do that over and over and over again, and it gets wired in, and you see you've turned on the prefrontal cortex. The feeling is like, oh, and then you've added some words and there's nothing to fight. You can't fight me. I believe you. I see. You don't have to convince me. I'm already there. There's nothing to fight. We're going to go get donuts. But then, you guys, you can't then after the donuts be like, see, I told ya. Wasn't it fun? You gotta, don't rub it in. So anyway, that actually really did, she has lots of anxiety still, but that actually was a very effective thing. And I think she felt really close to him and really good, which is what he wanted with the donuts anyway, right? It wasn't about the donut. So, all right. Some of you have a little party prize, these little finger traps. So for those of you who do, why don't you stick your fingers in them? Some people call them, they're called finger traps, Chinese finger traps or finger traps. Oh, did yours get broken?
Oh, I just did what you said.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, everybody who can, put your fingers in either side and then pull and try to get your fingers out. And I'm sure many of you know the secret to getting your fingers out. What do? Push in. I don't want to, but you can, but you're fine. It's not that big a deal, but I'm scared. Get in the car, Sasha, right? Pulling. How about, I'm really scared. Oh, sweetie, you are scared. It's really, I don't want to be late. Of course you don't want to be late. Loosen it up. And then there's some flexibility, there's some adaptability. You're helping grow that sort of flexible brain. There's a loosening that happens with validation. And I have to tell you, I've worked with families for 30 years, and people tell me all the time that they validate, and then I say, tell me what you said, and then they tell me, and I'm like, that was a sneaky attempt to try to get your kid to feel differently. You did not validate. So really think about it. Practice with a friend or your partner. Validation's actually hard. And you really want to get behind someone else's eyes. And you can play a little trick in your mind, because you also don't get what's up with being on time. She's in like 3rd grade, whatever, right? But you can get behind her eyes. Validation is in the ear of the receiver, not in the ear of the sender. So you can play a little trick and say, I really understand why you care a lot about me. This is so important. It works very well with teenagers. You because you just think, oh my God, they're so upset and emotional, and if they get this upset about this small thing, I'm scared for them. I don't know how they're going to function in the real world. But in fact, if you can validate it first, and sometimes you have to say, I really see why this is so upsetting to you. Not to you. You don't see, it wouldn't upset you, but it really upsets them. And if you can really lean into that first, then kids reduce their fight or flight, they're not fighting you, and they're more available. They got that prefrontal cortex turned on, and they're more available for the information. So we have a little thing that we do here that's an adaptation from a friend of ours. We work with somebody named Ellie Leibowitz, who is the head of the Yale Child Studies Center. And he has an amazing book called Breaking Free of Anxiety. Our chapter 4 in our book is all about anxiety, and it's based a ton on his work. And he does crazy scientific stuff where they can see what's happening in the brain while they're doing all this work. And it's really about parents changing how they're relating to the child's anxiety. They don't work with a child at all. It's amazing. And we get to meet with him every other week. He's just awesome. But this is an adaptation. He talks about validation plus confidence. You're really scared, and I know you can do it. And he calls it mac and cheese. You got the mac, you got the macaroni, it's okay. You got the cheese, put them together, right? So then I was like, do you mind if I make a sandwich, Ellie? And he was like, that's fine. Validation plus confidence plus validation, again, sometimes for our super sensitive kids. So you might say, oh my gosh, you are so scared about your math test tomorrow. I can tell how worried you are, and I can hear you don't even want to go to school about it. I know you're going to manage to make it through the day, but I get why you're dreading it so much. Because this little thing at the end, there's less to fight. You're getting out of the power struggle a little bit, you know what I mean? And notice again, I just really want to make this clear. I'm not saying I know you'll do great on the test. You're saying I know you'll survive the day. That's adaptability. It's not about doing well. That's very fragile. If you don't, then the day didn't go well. No, you survived the day, and here you are standing here, and you're okay. So try to think of a validation sandwich. This is the part that I think is missing from more modern parenting, like with the gentle parenting movement, is there's a lot of validation, but there's no meat in a sandwich. We need to say, your feelings are so understandable for you as your own organism and your world. I know you'll be okay, but I get that it's hard. This part is missing. And then you don't just say it, but you do it. Or don't do it. I know you want to stay home from school today, but we need to go to school. This is the really important part. You can't just say it. You have to live it. You have to be like walking them out the door as they're saying, I know it's rough. This is just feeling impossible. Here oh my gosh, I know you're so, keep it moving as best you can. Stick with what you're saying, but it doesn't, I'm making it sound easier than I know. It is for some people or at some times, but it's really important to hold that line of, because if you cave, what's the message you're sending? Not just that it's okay, I don't believe in you. I don't think you can handle it. Oh my gosh, you really don't think you can make it through this quiz? Okay, I don't think you can handle it. That's the accidental message you're sending. And I know that's not the message you guys want to send. But so that ability to keep that push of the movement, the doing, while acknowledging the feeling, says to them, I both believe in you, I see you and I believe in you. You know, confidence, like the root word of confidence is basically faith, right? I have faith that you can manage. So, quick little tips and tricks. Broaden your emotional vocabulary as much as you can. You can do it from preschool with the little feelings, lots of good feeling language. The difference between, in the anger world, the difference, you know, these feeling wheels, the difference between irritated and livid is important. That broadening of language helps kids have more vocabulary to be able to talk about what's going on. We do a lot of activities with kids where we'll say, these are strategies we use with kids all the time. Name your feeling, look at the clock, and wait. And then, you know, give it 5 minutes. Then look back. Most of the time, the feeling has shifted. But even if it hasn't, so what? You just sat there for 5 minutes and didn't leave class early or whatever. This is a good one for all the kids who get anxious and want to leave class, or kids who have a lot of anger and want to do something, that impulsivity. Name it, wait. Some of them carry around a little 3x5 card with it. Check the temperature of the oven. You know, you can have a feeling that's really strong and then feel validated and then be able to move on. But if you say to the kid 10 minutes later something like, oh, well, that wasn't so bad, they might be like, because, you know, you turn the oven on, you bake your roast, and then you turn the oven off, the oven is still hot. Our bodies are like that too. The chemicals are still rolling. So try to, you know, be patient and just let that oven be hot. Let that kid be hot for a little while. You can still move forward. They don't have to be cheerful about it. They don't have to love emptying the dishwasher. Yeah, whatever. Ouch. Here's a good one. Ouch. Or ouch. For the kids where they're not going to be able to manage a lot of language, the word shows validation. You can show it on your face. You can show it in your tone. Tone of voice matters so much. You don't have to say a word, really. I'm with you is what is conveyed, right? And you're mirroring a little bit of what they've got going. And the shrug, which is my favorite. You know, for those of you who have iPhones, that little purple lady, you know? Let her be your meme for the year. Let her be your mentor. Like, oh my gosh, you're so scared. Don't suggest, don't solve. Gosh, maybe if you wore your lucky socks. Because this conveys confidence too. There's nothing to be done. Feelings, man. Whoa. I know you can handle it. This kind of action really helps send a message to the kids that you really believe in them. Notice what brain is turned on. This is our little boss of the brain, and then our smoke alarm. I know you probably can't see this. Look at your kid or grandkid and say to yourself when you're trying to figure out what to do, who am I talking to right now? Am I talking to Elias or am I talking to horse Elias? Because if you've got this going on, this is not a teachable moment. But later might be. So you can validate here and move forward. But later, maybe, you might have a lesson. You might have some advice. You might have great advice that's really important, but not then. You're not trying to fix the feeling, you know? If there's anything I can say to you, it's bear witness. So here's a girl who got cut from the team. This is Rock, that she got cut from the team. And here she is with her dad. And she comes home and she says, oh, I made it all the way to the last group, and I can't believe it. I got cut from varsity. And I've been working on this for 2 years. You know. She's in pain. You're in pain because you feel for her. Sit with her, be in pain,
Model that you can sit with it without trying to soothe or fix and, have a suggestion. Maybe we could email the coach or, maybe you could have practiced all summer, We have all these ideas that we want to share, partly because we're trying to shift the kid out of the feeling rather than modeling that you can just sit with a feeling. Now, maybe tomorrow you could have a conversation of, I wonder what would have happened if you'd practiced all summer, and there's things you could, or, I don't know, email the coach or don't. That's on you people. But in the moment, just bear witness and be with your child in their discomfort and show that you're not afraid of it and that you can both handle it, actually. So, and doing nothing is powerful, and it's really hard. It's probably one of the hardest parenting moves you can make is to intentionally, consciously choose to do less. And we all probably need to be doing that. Do less problem solving, fixing. All that says to a kid, I don't know if you've got this. I better fix this for you. I think you won't come up with a good suggestion. Yeah?
Would this technique work with a child who's being bullied at school?
It might help the child manage feelings around it, but we certainly also don't want a child to be bullied at school, and that you also might be problem solving with the school counselor or the teacher, following up, trying to tell the difference between teasing and bullying. What might feel like teasing to one child might feel really like bullying to another. So you can do both. But in the moment of them telling you about it, not providing solutions, but instead saying, it's been really rough. You don't even want to go to lunch anymore. You're really afraid of what's going to happen. And then later you might say, what's going on? And go down that road, right? Yeah. All right. Here are some recommendations of some books. I mean, I can send the slides. Anybody who wants, I can send these slides out. Yeah, sure. And these are all fun and clickable because my friend is really smart. And so if you click on it, you can read about it and see it. So this is our book.
Some people ask me if you had copies of your book.
Yeah, I brought a couple. I only had my check on luggage, so I didn't bring very many. But you can go on Amazon or you can go whatever, your favorite bookseller. And here's some recommendations. These are clickable for if you want to see a hand model of the brain and how to talk to kids about it. This is a really great podcast by Lynn Lyons, who's a great author, who's, that's also the author who's supposed to have the Gift of Failure lady. What's her last name? Is it Leahy? Yeah. She's been on this podcast before. The Gift of Failure is a great book. Lynn Lyons' books are great. You have to be careful how you say it. Fluster Clucks. This is a click to our article in Time Magazine. That's how you reach me. I don't know. Bird on the Branch. This is your last minute. This is the last thing I want you guys to think about. And I don't know what happened there. I guess we're all done. So it's supposed to say Q&A, but that's all right.
Why don't you just stay to the Q&A?
Well, okay. Okay, except that I'm not. Because this is Bruce, who is Sandy's son-in-law, and we've been friends for 35 years. Yeah. And Bruce has been an educator for years. I'm actually going to read this because I think it's awesome. And he and I have been talking about this stuff for years and years. He is an educator, and me as a psychotherapist, and we have a lot of in sync things. He's a teacher, coach. He's been a dean, he's been the middle school principal, assistant head of school. He really believes in kids, and he really believes and has confidence in kids being able to be strong. And he also has an organization called Think Right, he's the president, where he works with students and especially students that are looking at college, looking at essays, but lots of ways to work with students. And has worked with some of my kids even, and I highly recommend him. And also, I don't know, just come help me do the Q&A. Also, do we need people to be on the microphone to do a Q&A, or can we just yell?
I got this.
Okay, never mind. Yeah. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, but even if you don't, come meet Bruce.
So there must be some questions. There are a lot of grandparents here. I'm sure as grandparents, you're thinking, how can I help my grandchildren? but also how can I help my grandchildren without pissing my kids off?
Exactly.
So we're very
We should be
fortunate.
thinking.
That's right. Stay in your lane.
So does anybody have any questions for Jen? Yeah.
Once you validate it, and you said no, you're still gonna go to school, what happens when they go through the door of the school?
And run out of the
What kind of support
school?
are you gonna get?
Yeah, you mean if they go in and then run right out again?
Yes.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And that does happen. That's a real life thing, I know. Well, I have some thoughts, but I bet you do
Yeah,
too,
no, I
as
do.
an
Yeah,
educator.
many-
You've seen this so
Many
much.
times, and I would agree with Jen, that the most important thing is to get that student into the school building.
You can get them in, but
Well, then, once you get the student into the school building,
There's no
then
support.
the school, that's their role to,
It sure
to
is.
manage
And
it.
that
How
is
do
a
you get them
problem
to
if you
perform their role?
don't.
what'd you say?
how do you get the school to perform the role that fits their role?
Well, I think that's maybe not a conversation for tonight.
Especially in the school.
Yeah. But we do talk a lot about getting supporters for kids like that, so you have other adults around that are also creating some containment, because you can't do it all, absolutely.
But if-
And if you're not getting that, you need to complain.
And you've experienced how fortunate this profession is to have someone like Jennifer, who is so balanced, so fun, adaptable, flexible, and this book is really terrific. So,
Would it be wise or not wise to have that book sitting in a situation where any age, kid, adult could pick it up?
That's so nice of you to ask. I actually have had a lot of families tell me that they leave it out, and that kids have picked it up. Our publisher our editor had an assistant who was in her mid-20s who had to go through it, find every period or whatever. She said it changed her life because she was reading about managing feelings for herself, Ellie Leibowitz keeps it out for his teenage boys. So I do think that's fun. And sometimes wives leave out a page for their husbands. And sometimes husbands leave out a page for their wives, but I don't know if grandparents should leave out a page for their
and many of these books, they really should be 40-page pamphlets. What's different about this book is what Jen said. It's a workbook. You can experience a situation and go into the book and find. It was really initially written to provide parents during the pandemic, when they were with their children all day long, different ways to manage situations. So it's a very practical book.
We photocopy pages all the time at our practice, and just like hand a kid or a parent just like one page with a little drawing to sort of help them remember. So, yeah.
What is the protocol or rule for repair? So if you have two kids who are now interacting, I was angry, and then I hit this one, and now okay, you're angry, but there's repair that has to, in my mind, it should happen. to some
Yeah.
degree.
Sure, because that's your values, and you're trying to actually pass on your values to your kids, not just have them respond like robots. So that's important. I'm such a fan of repair. I think that's beautiful. I'm not too much of a fan of repair in the emotional moment. I think if you can acknowledge feelings and maybe they need to be separated or whatever, safety first or whatever, not make it escalate, right? And let kids calm down, let the temperature come down from the oven. And it may not even be that night. It may be that you bring it up the next day. And you may bring it up in the car. Sometimes no eye contact, facing forward reduces a little bit. Hey, the way you treated your sister yesterday was really a problem. I'm wondering what you're thinking about doing next. You know what I mean? And maybe kind of have that time when they're much more available. Maybe not at the end of the school day if it was a really bad day. You know what I mean? You want to pick your teaching moments because, and you want to ask their opinion too. And I think you can also say it's important to me or, our family, but, so I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. In the moment, no one's home, nothing's getting across.
Right.
Yeah.
what concerns me is that probably everybody here understands what you've said and can probably implement it to a certain extent. I don't think we have 80 or 90% of the parents who can do this. So that has to be understood. The other thing that I've noticed, and it hasn't come out, at some point what you're talking about is the individual and introspection. They have to try to be understanding themselves. And I don't know when that exactly starts.
For
but-
boys, like 25, 27 maybe?
The other thing that, when I was teaching middle school, I took kids out into the Adirondacks in the middle of winter. And I created for them what I would say is positive stress. And it was an opportunity for them to go into an environment where they were anxious about, but they also had adults out there who provided some security.
Yeah.
And I think what I didn't hear was what you're talking about has to take place in a certain kind of an environment. It just can't happen.
Yeah.
It has to be some kind, and you.
Sure, just like the school example, sorry to cut you off, but
Sure.
just like the school example of you need also a school system to be a partner, or you need a neighborhood maybe, and those things are true. And it's really hard to parent in a vacuum. Oh my gosh, I love that little video.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, go, yes.
Have you ever considered making this like in the area where you live and work? Putting this as the classroom, like a teaching, as a
You mean for
class,
parents?
As a course, no, for the kids.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's happening in schools a lot. We come in and go do schools, and that's what group therapy really is, being able to teach that. But we also do a lot of parenting classes. That modeling how you want your kids to learn is the best thing. Saying out loud, you're driving down, oh, I just am so mad at that car in front of me, but you know what? I'm gonna try to take a deep breath. Maybe they're having a bad day too. You model out loud because you're sort of trying to show this is how it works in an adult brain. You might feel strongly, but you're also functioning. And if you can say that out loud, kids really pick up a ton from that. And they're gonna learn way more from you than they are from us.
Yeah.
And we can do this once, it doesn't
They go to
absorb.
school every day, and sometimes they're not there in the school more
Yeah.
than they're
Well,
with
that's
the
true.
parents. And you gotta get the parents to go to these therapy sessions, and that's not always the case, but the kids have to go to school.
Yeah.
And I think that, and a lot of these kids are frustrated, and they might carry some of these frustrations, even though you say the emotions are fleeting, or these feelings, they might be carrying them with them for a while.
Yeah, they might. And they might subside and come back again, and
Yeah.
subside and come back again, for sure.
And I would say not might, they do.
Yeah,
Just
that's
like
right.
we do. And there are many schools, I can't speak to here, but I have taught in my 35 years of teaching, 25 years I did teach a class of health, that was social health, physical health, all that stuff. So it does happen. Yes?
The gentleman had his hand up too. But I do have a question.
No, okay, go ahead. I'll go after. Go ahead.
So you mentioned 3 pillars. What are the other 2 from that study?
Oh, you're challenging me here.
Oh, I can look up the study.
Yeah. One was a kind of mindfulness piece about being like pretty present moment awareness and being able to sort of be here now, not in the future, not in the past. And, ooh, look it up and email
Just say
me.
the fifth.
What's the
I'm not sure
research-
what the 5th is.
lead research?
Okay, probably our last question.
Just on the shrug, I really love the idea of kids sitting with their feelings and processing their feelings and feeling their feelings and I try to implement the shrug, and I think sometimes for me, at least reflecting on what I'm doing, having it come off as like dismissive
Yes.
or
Yes.
You know,
care.
versus,
Yes.
you know.
Not genuine, right?
Yes.
Right, like, well, you feel
Yeah,
like that.
it can't be
oh.
snarky. You're
Right.
yes, I really appreciate you saying that. Actually,
So
that is, yeah.
I'll just throw that into the
Yeah.
air, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's right. You got to get right with yourself first before you're going to do some of this, right? Wow, that's really hard. And maybe it's just like,
Or even if I'm doing it perfectly, that they're expecting
Oh,
something more
absolutely.
of me, or to come in there or something. And
do you know that they've done these studies with teenagers where they've put them in functional MRI machines and they've shown them all these pictures of like regular neutral faces, angry faces, scared faces, happy faces. Teenagers read neutral faces as aggressive. That's why when you say, could you please pick up your socks, they're like, stop yelling at me! Because they really do hear it more as yelling, and they really do see a neutral face as a little threatening. So you're 100% right about that. So you got to be the grown-up and pull it back. That is how they're actually seeing it. It's not their fault. It's evolution.
So that thing about be non-reactive, which was the third pillar,
Yeah.
I was sort of wordsmithing it because it was name, accept, be non-reactive, and I was going like,
know.
how do you be non-something? And this thing about mindfulness sounds like kind of the answer to that question. So, and then I saw the word tolerate come up. Okay, I can sit and try to tolerate, but I feel like we need a word for what we're asking you to do when you're doing nothing.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
actually, that gives you something to do,
Yes.
not just sit there and wait for time to go by. And that sort of goes with the shrug too.
Yeah, yeah,
You're saying,
yeah.
can you get into
Yeah.
the mindset where you do this and you're okay with it somehow? And what are we doing when we do that? I think it is observing ourselves a
Yeah.
little bit. It's like, I'm not just here, I'm also here, and I get to be aware of it, watch it, observe myself.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of Buddhist style meditation is one of the ways that, and we do that in little child flavors all the time, of being able to watch your feelings go by in a cloud, watch your thoughts happen in a little car, for sure. But I just find that if we get too much into the little techniques, there's this, again, this idea that we're fixing it, and that it could be okay to wait. Because actually, real Buddhist meditation
You do nothing.
is do nothing. It's the do nothing method.
Yeah.
That's what the Buddha did.
Yeah.
And I would answer that by saying that every child is different. You have a different relationship with every child. So in a moment, one of my children might have liked a hug. The other, I could have tossed a baseball to and said, let's go out and have a toss.
Yeah.
We can talk about this. So
Yeah.
I think knowing that relationship with the individual can be helpful. So
Crucial.
thank you, Heidi.
Yes. Jennifer, thank you so much.
Sure,
It was
thank you.
Great to have you here. We appreciate
Oh,
your
so
time.
glad to be here.
And honorary membership. AAUW.